I'm going to get started by just welcoming everyone. Welcome to Wat Tung. Nice to see everyone here this morning. Good morning. Welcome to everyone who's joining us online as well. Today is our group learning program where each Sunday and Wednesday I come together with students, helping them to understand the path to enlightenment. Each Sunday we go chapter by chapter in this book, Developing a Life Practice, the path that leads to enlightenment, where I help you to be able to understand each chapter. This is a 7-month program where you gradually learn the teachings of the Buddha to move to this enlightened mental state. And then on Wednesdays, I do meditation with you guys and open up to any and all questions that you guys have related to the teachings of the Buddha or the path to enlightenment. So welcome to all of you guys, whether you're joining for the first time or you join regularly. The teachings of the Buddha are here to guide you to be able to get to this enlightened mental state where your mind can be completely peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy. By the time you get to enlightenment, you will no longer experience any discontent feelings. You'll have eliminated all your anger, sadness, frustration, agitation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy. All these feelings in others are eliminated from the mind. Oftentimes people think that it's other people who are causing you to experience these feelings, but what you can see in the teachings of the Buddha in a way that you can independently verify is that it's your own mind that causes these feelings. This is why you can actually eliminate them. If it was other people that was causing this for you, you actually wouldn't be able to eliminate it. So what I'm going to be doing today is helping you guys with loving kindness meditation. I'm going to guide you in a loving kindness meditation. And then as I mentioned, afterwards, I'm going to open up to whatever questions you guys have. What loving kindness meditation is for is it's to help you to eliminate anger, hatred, ill will, and all the lesser versions too, like frustration, agitation, annoyance, even the slightest dislike. Right now, there might be certain people in your life that you like, and there might be certain people that you dislike. That dislike is not coming from the other person. It's actually coming from your own mind. You have certain expectations, certain things that you want, certain cravings and desires. And when people do things your way, you like them. But when they don't do things your way, then your mind dislikes them. And this is the mind lacking wisdom of impermanence, that not everyone's going to do things the same way. It's not possible for everybody in the world to do things the same way. But as long as your mind has that craving for permanence, there'll be certain people that you like that do things your way, but then there's going to be certain people who don't do things your way. That's normal, but the mind will dislike those individuals in the unenlightened state. But you can get to the point where you've transformed your mind and you have love and kindness for all beings. What loving kindness is a genuine interest in seeing all beings be well, active goodwill towards others without any judgment. Sometimes people are taught to, kind of hold back their respect for others until people respect you. This is kind of a really unwise way to practice. You might have been taught, well, don't respect others until they respect you first. Well, if everybody practiced that, nobody would be respecting anybody, because they'd be like, I'm not respecting you until you respect me. Well, I'm not going to respect you until you respect me. Well, if you did the same thing with your love and your kindness, where it's like, I'm not going to be loving and kind to you until you're loving and kind with me. Okay, well, I'm not going to be loving and kind to you until you're loving and kind with me. So now everybody's just kind of in their corner, not being loving and kind with each other. So what this meditation is going to help you do is fill up the mind so it's permeating with loving kindness or this genuine interest in seeing all beings be well. Then the way you transform your mind away from the anger, hatred, and ill will on all those lesser versions is you go out into the world, practice being loving and kind through your intentions, your speech, and your actions. And the Buddha provides you guidance of how to do this in his core and central teaching called the Eightfold Path. So this meditation is going to essentially rewire the mind to be more loving and more kind. But you need to still go out into the world and be loving and kind through your intentions, your speech, and your actions. That's where the real transformation is occurring. You wouldn't be able to just meditate your way to being loving and kind with others. That's an important part of it, but you need to go out into the world and be loving and kind. So one of the ways you might think of this meditation is it's kind of like filling up your gas tank, and then you go out into the world and you're loving and kind with the people around you. So I'll share with you guys how we do this meditation, and then we'll actually do it together. What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to start with some chanting to ease the mind into the meditation. This will help you actually get more benefit out of the meditation itself. I see many of you guys have the chanting sheets. If you don't have a chanting sheet, they're over there on the cabinet. You're welcome to help yourself to a chanting sheet, and you can chant along. For anybody who's joining us online, You can find these on our website at buddhadailywisdom.com, and you click on free books and then scroll down towards the bottom, and you'll see it down towards the bottom where it's labeled daily chanting sheet. These chants were used at one time during the lifetime of the Buddha in terms of chanting itself. When the Buddha was teaching, everything was oral, that he didn't have anything to write down, right? There was no technology at that time, 2,500 years ago, to write things down. So everything he taught was oral. And then every 2 weeks, his students would come together and they would do chanting. This was the way to recite the teachings and commit them to the memory. So you can see from the origins of chanting that this isn't a rite, a ritual, or a ceremony, or worship, or prayer, anything like that. If you see those kinds of things associated with the teachings of the Buddha, that's not the teachings of the Buddha. He didn't teach rites, rituals, ceremonies, worship, and prayer, because what he's doing is he's teaching you to train your mind and cultivate the mind to get to the point where your mind is completely peaceful and joyful. And there's no belief in his teachings. So you're not believing a bunch of things and hoping something good happens when you die. You're actually learning, growing, and developing in this life, moving your mind closer and closer to this peaceful and joyful mental state. So you can see from the origins of chanting that it was used for a learning tool, or a learning device. Today, we don't need to chant in order to remember the teachings. We have books, audiobooks, videos, podcasts, things like this. So we use chanting as a way to ease the mind into meditation and get more benefit out of the meditation itself. It'll cultivate awareness of mind and awareness of the breath, so that by the time you're in your meditation, you'll actually be able to get more benefit. So if you like to chant along, you're more than welcome to, and you'll hear me chanting as we go. And then we'll not only do that on the way in, but on the way out as well. If you read the English translations, you're going to see a lot of appreciation, gratitude, and respect for the Buddha. And because of this, I don't think the Buddha even created these chants. They were probably created by his students, either during his life or after his death. Because a Buddha wouldn't walk around and hand out chants and say, here, chant these chants to me out of respect for me, right? This would be ego and arrogance if somebody did this. So the Buddha would have eliminated his ego as part of getting to enlightenment, because every enlightened being would have eliminated their ego. So the Buddha wouldn't have gone around and say, here, chant these things to me. But if you learn from a teacher how to move from the anger, sadness, frustration, and all those other feelings to the peace and the joy that is enlightenment, and there's many other benefits with this enlightened mental state as well. And this teacher didn't want anything from you or expect anything from you, you'd probably have a lot of appreciation, gratitude, and respect for that person too. So that's why I think they actually came from his students. So after the chanting, I'm going to then do breathing mindfulness meditation, where I'm going to guide you in this short session where we're going to be focused on the breath. And anytime the mind moves off the breath, you're going to cut that off and let it go and bring the mind back to the breath. You'll hear me guiding you for a brief period, but then there's going to be a period of time where it's just quiet and we're just meditating, doing the breathing mindfulness meditation. It's kind of going to be a short time frame. But then we're going to go into the loving kindness meditation, where you're going to hear me using these phrases or these affirmations, things like, may I be peaceful. And I'll be doing that on the out breath. And then I'll say, may I be safe. And again, I'll do that on the out breath. May I be well. And then may I be free of all discontentedness and the suffering it causes. When you hear that, you would like to repeat it in your mind on the out breath. The only reason why I'm doing it out loud is because I'm guiding students in this meditation. If I was doing this on my own, I would just do it quietly within my own mind. So you can do this on the out breath. Then you're going to hear me go to these other rings where it's going to be like, may mom and dad be peaceful, safe, well, and free of discontentedness. And we're going to go through these different rings until eventually we get to all beings. When we're doing this, we're not asking some, special power to come and change mom and dad. We're not sending loving kindness to mom and dad and trying to change them. What these meditations are designed for, all the meditations of the Buddha, is to change your mind so that you can be more loving and kind. Because as long as you're bitter and harsh and hostile in your relationships and you're putting that out, that's just what's going to come back to you. So if you can transform your mind to be more loving and kind when you're around mom and dad and you're being loving and kind, this is going to produce beneficial results for you. It's going to produce wholesome results or wholesome karma. But if you're bitter and harsh and hostile around people, whether it's your parents or your siblings or coworkers or your boss or your neighbors, any of these people, then it's just going to produce unwholesome results for you. So we're going to go through these rings where you're going to hear me include including groups of people. But just keep in mind that this isn't to change other people or invoke some kind of higher power to change those people. All the meditations that you're doing is working to transform your mind. So as I do these affirmations, we're going to do about 6 different rings. Then we're going to eventually go back to breathing mindfulness meditation and then back to the chanting. The way that I think about this is like a loving kindness sandwich, that in the middle, you've got loving kindness, and then the lettuce and tomato is like the breathing mindfulness meditation, and the bread holding it all together, that's the chanting. Okay, so we're going to come out of this with chanting, and then I'll maybe just share a few things with you guys and then open up to whatever questions you guys might have related to the teachings of the Buddha, the path to enlightenment, any challenges that you're having in your day-to-day life. We could talk about all those kinds of things. So in terms of your body position for meditation, there's 4 positions that the Buddha taught: seated, lying, standing, and walking. And you would learn these different positions at different times because it's kind of like having a tool belt, and you would use these different positions at different times during your journey to enlightenment, because your body's not going to be able to permanently be in the same position all the time. But oftentimes students are learning in the seated position, so I'll teach you a little bit about the seated position to help you find something that's more comfortable. We use the seated, lying, and standing for loving kindness meditation, but we don't use the walking position for loving kindness. It just doesn't work out for that meditation. But you can really sit however you like. What I'm going to share with you are suggestions for you to consider. It's not like a hard, fast rule, right? There's not all these rules in the teachings of the Buddha, because everybody's body is a little bit different, and you're going to find different things to be comfortable. So you can consider what I'm sharing to be recommendations. And if there's something that I share with you that helps you, wonderful. You can use it for your meditation position. But if there's something you find on your own that's working good for you, for your body position, you can use that as well. So the things that I share with you are just things for you to consider. You could be sitting on the floor or in a chair. Maybe if you're at home, you're on a bench or a sofa or a wheelchair. You can sit however you like. But if you're on the floor, you might have some cushions under your rear. This is pretty common to kind of soften your seat. And if you're going to bring your legs together in the cross-leg position, you like to do that just lightly. Whereas if you have them real tight, this can impede the circulation and cause pain in the lower body. Some people like to put their legs off the mat. This gets the hips up in the air, and it lessens the angle at the hips, the knees, and the ankles, allowing the circulation to flow. The Buddha put his right hand over his left with his thumbs together, and he put this into his lap. But again, it's not about everyone doing it exactly the same way. There's other options here as well. Some people like to put their palms in their thighs or their knees, palms up, resting their hands comfortably in their lap. There's all these different options that you could use with your hands and arms. And then the same thing for anybody in a chair, on a bench, or a sofa, or a wheelchair. You can also sit however you like. Sometimes people put their feet flat on the floor or lightly crossed at the ankles, but you can see me sitting in a chair here with my legs crossed, so that's an option for you as well. And then you can put your hands and arms wherever you like. In terms of your upper body, it's helpful if the upper body is erect with the sternum up and the shoulders back, because this will keep the mind attentive and alert during the meditation. This is a dedicated, active, purposeful training session where you're eliminating certain unwholesome qualities from the mind and you're cultivating certain wholesome qualities in the mind. So you would like the mind to be attentive and alert during the meditation. Whereas if you were slouched, the mind would have a tendency to be dull or lethargic. But if you were real rigid, the mind could be overactive or uptight. So you'd like the upper body to be in the middle with the sternum up and the shoulders back, which will keep the mind attentive and alert so you can actively train it, but it'll also make it easy for you to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. So again, I'm going to ease us into the meditation with chanting, and then I'm going to come back in with the guidance to help you during the meditation. If you'd like to chant along, you're more than welcome to, and then I'll come back in to help you with meditation through the guidance. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Mahakeva Bhutang Mahakavanang Apivateyami Savakato Mahakavata Tammo Dhammang Namasami สุปฏิปันโนภะคะวะโตสาวกสังโฆสังฆังนามามินะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสภะคะวะอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิชาจารณังสัมมุโนสกัตโตโรกาวิตุอนุเตโรปุริสาดามาสติสัตตาตาวามนุสนังพุทโธภะคะวะติ Okay, with the lower body and hands and arms comfortable, and the upper body erect, just close the eyes and start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Here you're just looking to establish the breath. A nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. Not forced or controlled, just a gradual inhale through the nose, experiencing the full breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Your breath may not match up with the guidance that I'm providing, and that's okay. This is your practice. I'm just here for guidance. You can use this voice as a reminder that whenever you get to the next inhale, breathing gradually through the nose, developing a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose, experiencing the full breath. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the breath well established, start fixating the mind on the breath, either the sound of the breath coming into the nose or the sensation of air moving over the skin into the nose. The breath is the present moment. Fixate the mind on the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the mind fixated on the breath, whenever you notice that it moves off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. No need to observe the thought, label it, judge it, analyze it, or even try to figure out where it's coming from. Whenever you notice that the mind is moved off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. I'm going to be quiet now and let you do this work of focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. Then I'll be back with more guidance on loving kindness meditation. You have nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. No one needs you right now. This is your time to focus on the breath. Breathing in and out. Continuing to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. Repeat these affirmations in the mind on the out breath. May I be peaceful. May I be safe. May I be well. May I be free of all discontentedness in the suffering that it causes. May mom and dad be peaceful. May they be safe. May they be well. May they be free of all discontentedness in the suffering that it causes. May my family, friends, co-workers, and neighbors all be peaceful. May they be safe. May they be well. May they be free of all discontentedness in the suffering that it causes. May all those who have caused me harm be peaceful. May they be safe. May they be well. May they be free of all discontentedness in the suffering that it causes. May all those who I have harmed be peaceful. May they be safe. May they be well. May they be free of all discontentedness in the suffering that it causes. May all beings, wherever they reside, be peaceful. May all beings be safe. May all beings be well. May all beings be free of discontentedness in the suffering that it causes. Now return back to breathing mindfulness meditation, focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. Breathing in and out. อะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธมะเกวาปุตังมหาเกวันหังอภิวาเทมิสวากขาโตมหาเกวัตตาธัมโมธัมมังนามัสสามิสุปฏิปันโนมหาเกวัตโตสาวกสังโฆสังฆังนามามินะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสมหะเกวาอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิจาจารณังสัมมุโนสกขาโตโรกาวิตุอนุเตโรปุริสาธัมมาสติสัตตาตาวามนุสนังพุทโธภควาติ Okay, if you guys would like to slowly make your way out of meditation. Once again, welcome to everyone. Nice to see everyone here this morning. Welcome to everyone joining online as well. This was loving kindness meditation. This is going to slowly rewire your mind to be more loving and kind when you're in various relationships, because the mind in the unenlightened state has a certain amount of bitterness and harshness, hostility, aggression, irritation, annoyance, or dislike towards others. And you would like to transform that, because as long as you have that in your mind, it's going to come out through your intentions, speech, and actions, and it'll damage your relationships. Oftentimes when we're in relationships and it's not going well, the unenlightened mind will blame the other person for the relationship not going well. Or you'll think the way to improve this relationship is to change the other person. And this isn't actually going to work. You'll never actually get to peace and joy by attempting to change other people. The path to enlightenment is about working on your own mind and transforming your own mind. And now as you transform your mind and you function differently in your day-to-day relationships, this is what's going to improve those relationships. No matter how much you try to change other people, they ultimately have to choose themselves to change. And going out into the world and trying to force or convince other people to do things your way isn't going to work, because not everyone's going to do things your way. This is the mind craving permanence and wanting things to be a certain way. And when your mind gets what it wants in the unenlightened state, you get pleasant feelings like happiness, excitement, elation, thrill, exhilaration, euphoria. But when the mind's not getting what it wants, it experiences painful feelings like anger, sadness, frustration, and others. And as long as you allow this to continue in the mind, you'll just experience anger and hostility and bitterness over and over and over again, and you'll think it's coming from something external. And when you're experiencing those painful feelings arising, thinking that it's something external, you will tend to push people away in your life. This is called aversion, where you think the problem is external and you push a person away, or you push a situation away. You might have pushed away friends or family members in your life, thinking that that was going to solve your your anger and frustration. But you can see that that didn't solve it, because you still get angry, you still get frustrated. If this person was the true cause of your anger, when you push them out of your life, you'd be peaceful from that point forward. But you can see that that's not the case. Or the other thing the mind will do is it'll tend to be bitter and harsh and hostile through your intentions, your speech, and your actions. It's almost like an animal growling and roaring at another animal, trying to fear it into doing things your way. Or the third thing you might do is you might put your expectations on people and try to control people or pressure people, force them to do things your way. And people might be doing this to you too. And this is the unfortunate thing about the world, is that as long as the mind has a lack of wisdom of what's truly causing your discontent feelings, you'll continue to think it's something external and push people away, be bitter, harsh, and hostile, or put your expectations on people, and you're not going to be able to live in harmony with all beings around you, because it's only a matter of time before people do things differently than you. There's only one person in the world that does things your way all the time. There's only one person who does that. Do you know who that person is? Yourself, right? That's your only person who does things your way. So oftentimes the mind can only reside with people who do things your way. But if you have that type of thought, if you allow your mind to continue to think that way, there's only one person who does things your way. Because of impermanence, people do things differently. They do things different ways. The world around you is impermanent. There's nothing in the world around you that is permanent. Everything is constantly changing. It's temporary. So as long as your mind craves permanence, wanting things to be a certain way, then when you get it your way, you'll be happy and excited. But when you don't, you'll have those painful feelings. And because the world is impermanent, you can't always get things your way. So the Buddha offers you these teachings and guidance to be able to help you transform your mind. He did this work on his own mind first, because his mind experienced anger and frustration and all these other things as well. But he figured out by himself how to be able to get to this enlightened mental state. And then he spent the rest of his life from the age of 35 to 80 helping others to be able to understand how to get to that same enlightened mental state. And it comes through training of the mind. The Buddha discovered these individual pollutions that are in the mind. And when you train your mind and you uproot these pollutions out of the mind, that's what produces the peace and the joy. It's not instantaneous. It's gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress that you gradually wear away these pollutions and gradually experience more and more improvement to the condition of your mind. Meditation is part of that, but there's other things that you need too besides just meditation. You wouldn't be able to meditate your way to this peaceful and joyful mental state. So this meditation is designed to eliminate the anger, the hostility, the bitterness, the harshness that's in the mind. Because as long as you have that in your mind and you're putting that out through your intentions, speech, and actions, it's just going to come back to you. You can see that in your relationships where you're bitter and harsh and hostile. It just comes back to you in those same relationships. But if you transform your mind and you're more loving and kind in those relationships, you'll see that you'll experience a different result. Not instantaneously, not immediately, but over time, as you're being more and more loving and kind, you'll see that the people around you will be more and more loving and kind. And it's just going to take you deciding that you're done with the anger, you're done with the frustration, you're done with the broken relationships, you're done with all the difficulties and struggles, and you'd like to experience something different in your day-to-day life. And that's what the Buddha taught, this better way of life. He doesn't have rules or commandments. He doesn't have beliefs. He doesn't have opinions and views. He's helping you to be able to see the truth about how the world truly works. And when you come to that wisdom to understand how the world truly works, you can navigate this world more peacefully, right? When the mind has a lack of wisdom of the world, it will struggle and have difficulties as you go through the world. So there's this better way of life that the Buddha taught, helping you to be able to awaken to wisdom. And the way you do that is through learning, examining, and investigating his teachings, through reflecting on them to independently verify if they're true or false, and then you practice them, integrating them into your day-to-day life, and that's where the real transformation is occurring. So this meditation of loving kindness meditation, you're going to need to customize this for yourself. What you heard me use is just kind of general affirmations or phrases that apply to all of us because we're all meditating together. But there are certain people people in your life that you probably hate, or certain people that you have anger or resentment towards, or people maybe in your past that you're still holding on to anger or resentment for. And sometimes people think that's the way to get back at that other person, is to be angry and resentful and hold on to that. And somehow you're going to win by holding on to that anger and resentment. But this is like holding on to a hot coal and trying to burn somebody else with it. The only person getting burned is yourself. So that anger and hatred, or that hostility and bitterness, that resentment that's in your mind, you can uproot that and get rid of it, because it's just causing harm to yourself. Whether people are currently in your life or whether they're long gone in your life, you'll never maybe even see them again. Maybe they're even dead and gone. But if you're holding on to resentment, it's just causing harm within your own mind, and you can uproot this and eliminate it through this meditation. So you'd like to start with yourself, like we started with, may I be peaceful, safe, well, and free of discontentedness. And you'd like to end with all beings. But in the middle, you would like to customize this. Usually you start with a ring or two after yourself with some people that you currently have loving kindness for. That's why I start with mom and dad. Even though you haven't agreed with everything mom and dad has done, of course, because of impermanence, it's not possible for you to agree with everything mom and dad has ever done. But perhaps you have some loving kindness in there, and you can kind of bubble that up in your mind. And then I start with family and friends and, co-workers and neighbors, just to kind of bubble that up. And I'm doing that with you guys. But you might actually use specific names. If you have a friend named Susie or Barbara or somebody else that you actually have loving kindness for, you might actually put that person in there where you say, may Barbara be peaceful, safe, well, and free of discontentedness. But then you'd like to go to people that maybe you're more neutral about. You don't hate them, but you don't exactly love them either. Maybe like neighbors or coworkers, right? You don't really hate them, but you don't really love them either. And that will kind of help the loving kindness that you've bubbled up. It'll kind of flow over into that group, and then, or that person or whoever it is. But then you would like to be able to include some people that you do have anger towards. You do have hatred towards them. You do have bitterness and hostility, and only you know who those people are. You need to look inside your mind and be able to see who those people are. And again, you might actually include them by name. Where may Bob be peaceful, safe, and well, whoever those people are. You can use a person, you can use a group of people, right? Like if you hate politicians, if you hate police officers, if you hate lawyers or taxi drivers or whatever it is, you can include the groups of people too, the way that we did, right? I used, may all those who have harmed me be peaceful, right? Other people can't cause you to be discontent. Other people can't cause you to be angry or frustrated. It's your own mind that's causing these feelings, but they can cause you harm. They can cause harm to your physical body. They can cause harm to your material possessions. They can cause harm to your reputation. These are harms that people can cause you, but they're not actually causing the anger and the frustration. That's your mind craving permanence and wanting things to be a certain way. And same thing is, you can't actually cause other people to be discontent. You probably have people that blame you from time to time for causing them to be angry or frustrated or irritated or sad or whatever, right? But you're not causing that. That's their own mind causing that. But you can cause people harm, and you've probably caused people harm in your life, whether it's physical harm or cause harm to their material possessions or cause harm to people's reputation. So you would like to get to the point where you don't have guilt and shame for any of those kinds of things. And you're also not having resentment towards the people who have caused you harm. So when I do this as a group, I do it like this because it applies to all of us. But again, you can actually include a specific person's name or a group of people. You can actually include them. And then eventually you would like to get to all beings. And you like to do maybe 6 to 8 rings. Your mind can't really focus on anything more than that and really gain the benefit. So you'd like to do kind of like 6 to 8 rings and eventually getting to all beings. And that breathing mindfulness meditation we do at the end is to kind of cut off anything that's come up while you're doing your meditation. There were times where I was doing this meditation. I used to do it at first for myself and my mom because I had a lot of resentment towards my mom growing up. And by the time I got out of the meditation, I was actually angry. I was frustrated because prior to the meditation, I wasn't really thinking about anything in particular. But during the meditation, when I was like, may mom be peaceful, safe, free, and discontentedness, and all that other stuff, I would be thinking about the things that happened as I was growing up. And this hostility and bitterness would arise in my mind. mind. But that was coming from my expectations of mom, wanting mom to be my way, right? This is me wanting and longing, yearning for her to be a certain way. And that's not the way she was. She was different, right? She chose to be the way that she is. And that doesn't mean that she's right or wrong. It was just different than what I wanted, right? And each one of us have certain expectations and wants for the people around us. But people will never function the way you want them to function. People are going to do things differently. That's impermanence. So at the end of the meditation, I could oftentimes be angry and frustrated thinking about the things that happen. So that breathing mindfulness meditation at the end of the meditation of the loving kindness, that's to cut that off and let that go. So if you get to the end of your loving kindness meditation and your mind is permeating with loving kindness, there's no requirement for you to go back to the breathing mindfulness meditation unless you'd like to. But it's there for you if you decide that that's what you would like to do. And then ultimately come out of the meditation with some more chanting. And then remember, what you would like to do is go out into the world and be loving and kind. This meditation is to bubble up the loving kindness in your mind so that it's permeating and the mind is filled with this loving kindness. But then the real transformation is occurring when you go out into the world and you're loving and kind with the people around you. So you show up to the airport and you're planning to fly somewhere and you're really excited to go to this trip. And then when you show up to get your ticket at the ticket counter and check in your luggage, they tell you that your flight is delayed or maybe that it's canceled. And you notice this anger and frustration coming up. That's your craving for permanence. I want every single flight to take off on time as scheduled. Right? It's just not possible. There's going to be weather issues, crew issues, maintenance issues. It's not possible for every airplane to take off on time, but your mind will crave permanence. So when you show up to the airport and you find out that your flight is delayed or canceled, you might notice the anger coming up. And the remedy for that is your loving kindness. You bring in that loving kindness, and now you can be loving and kind with the person at the airport through your intentions, your speech, and your actions, realizing that any frustration or agitation or annoyance that's coming up, it's coming from your own mind. It's not coming from the lady or the gentleman behind the ticket counter. It's coming from your own mind. And being bitter and harsh and hostile with that person isn't going to solve anything about this flight that's not taking off on time. It's not going to solve anything. As you put out the bitterness and harshness and hostility, it's just going to come back to you, right? So you'd like to arise this loving kindness in the mind through your meditation, but then go out into the world and be loving and kind, right? So that's how you really transform your mind. And slowly but surely, you can wear away this anger, hatred, and ill will and have loving kindness permeating in the mind. The Buddha gives a really good analogy about how this occurs, that if you had a digging tool and it had a wooden handle and you were digging with this wooden tool, each day you're wearing away wood on this handle. But you don't know how much wood you're wearing away from the handle. But when it's completely exhausted, each day when you've been digging with this tool, when it's completely exhausted and you need to replace the wooden handle, you're going to know that. You're not going to know each day how much you've worn away of the wood, but you'll know when it's completely exhausted and you need to replace the hammer or the handle. The same thing is true about your anger, your hostility, and your bitterness. Each day, you're not going to know how much of the anger and hostility you're wearing away, but when it's completely gone, you're going to know that because it'll be 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. You haven't been angry and bitter and harsh with that particular person or at any aspects of your relationship. So for me, with mom, whenever I would get together with mom, it was like fireworks that hey, it was only a matter of time before me and mom were arguing about something. We were frustrated and angry and hostile and bitter, right? And we did that for quite a while, all the way up into my 20s, right? But then there became a time where I was training my mind with this meditation and all the other teachings of the Buddha. And it was 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years. I hadn't been harsh and bitter and hostile with mom at all. Each day, I didn't know how much anger and hostility I was wearing away, but when it was completely gone, I knew that because I hadn't been angry or frustrated with her at all, and she wasn't being that way with me over time, right? So you can transform your relationships by transforming your own mind. I grew up wanting to change mom so bad, and boy, did I try. Boy, I was trying so hard to change mom, and I would just get more and more frustrated all the time, right? But when I started focusing on something that I could actually control, which was my own mind, that's where the real improvement happens. And that's what the Buddha teaches you, is to focus on your own mind, because you can change that, but you can't change other people. So once I changed my mind and I was more loving and kind with mom, Mom could realize she was the one who was being angry. And then she started working on her mind to change her mind, right? But as long as she was angry and I was angry, she couldn't see that because I was putting out the anger and hostility and she was putting it out right back. So if you transform your own mind and you're loving and kind in all your relationships, more and more the people can see that they're the ones who their mind is angry and upset. And now they might choose to transform their mind. So I'm going to just stop here and see if you guys have any questions about anything you'd like to talk about, whether it's loving kindness meditation or any other meditation that the Buddha teaches. If it's something about the teachings of the Buddha, the temples, anything you're seeing, anything you're having challenges with in your day-to-day life, you're welcome to ask any and all questions that you like. I'm pleased to help you with any of that. If you'd like to ask questions here at the temple, we have microphones in the white bowl there in the middle of the room. Just get a microphone, take it back to your seat. You can press the gray button. You're going to see the lights come on, and then you can just hold that up to your chin, and we'll be able to hear you here at the temple, and they'll be able to hear you online as well. If you speak here without a microphone, they won't be able to hear you online. And then if you'd like to keep these microphones with you, you're more than welcome, because someone around you might have a question, or you might have more than one question. You can just share the microphone with others. And then if you're not using it, if you could turn it off, then we won't get feedback through the speakers. That'll be helpful. And then for anyone who's online, you can put your questions into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom in the comment section. I'll be able to see that. Or you can raise your hand electronically in Zoom and unmute your microphone and ask any questions that way. So does anybody here, anybody online have any questions you'd like to ask? No questions? Yeah, you have a question? Yes, sir. It only takes one, and then you'll see a whole bunch more will come after that.
One, two. Oh, hi. Hello, Kun David. I'm Irish, and I was brought up in a very Catholic, guilt-ridden way. Now, I have spent many years trying to deal with my tendencies to feel guilty about things in life. And I think I've done quite well, but it's still there. Can Buddhism, does guilt exist in Buddhism? Because I don't really, it's never a word that I see in any of the teachings, and it's never a word that I hear in any of the teachings, which appeals to me, which is really good. But how could Buddhism help me deal with the feelings of guilt that I get about just situations in life that come up that I don't want this emotion, I don't want this feeling? That's my question.
Yeah, the whole path to enlightenment is to eliminate feelings such as guilt and shame and all those kinds of things. That's what the Buddha's guiding you to. So he didn't use guilt, shame, and fear in order to teach people to get away from guilt, shame, and fear, where sometimes the guilt, shame, and fear is used in order to kind of convince people to do things or coerce them to do things, where the Buddhist teachings don't have that. His teachings are to actually help you eliminate those things, the causes and conditions that are producing them. What's producing it is the craving, desire, attachment, the longing, the yearning, wanting and expecting things to be a certain way, including yourself, right? That's where the guilt's coming from, is you put these expectations on yourself and you think that you should be here, and then you're here and your mind feels guilty. Right? But even if you were here and you came up to here, your expectations are just going to do this because your mind's craving and craving. It has this unquenchable thirst. So you need to get to the point where you realize you're a work in progress and you're not perfect yet, and that's okay. But getting to enlightenment, an individual will be functioning perfectly by the time they get to enlightenment. They won't be causing harm to anybody around them whatsoever. This is why the mind is so peaceful and joyful. This is why your relationships are so harmonious. This is why your mind's focused, concentrated. You have clarity of mind and deep memory, because all the pollutions are eliminated from the mind and your mind's completely at ease and completely peaceful. So from what I know from Catholicism, is there tends to be this craving for permanence and everybody being a certain way. And oftentimes people are taught that Jesus is perfect from birth all the way till death. And this isn't actually true. Jesus wasn't perfect. If you remember, just a few days before he was crucified, he was in the temples throwing people out of the temples and knocking over tables and being angry and frustrated about that. So that's why when they were like, who do you want us to release, the murderer or the Jesus? And they were like, oh, release the murderer. murder, right? Because he only affected one family. But Jesus was unfortunately going around and being angry and frustrated and tossing people out of the temples. So people wanted him crucified. It was his own actions that led to that. At the end of his life, he was on the cross and he cried out to God and said, "Why have you forsaken me?" Where it wasn't God that actually killed him. It was his own decisions. That's what he taught. You reap what you sow. Right? You reap what you sow. That's the same thing as the natural law of karma, that any decisions you make will lead to any particular result that you experience. So oftentimes, because of the thought that Jesus was perfect from birth until death, people put that expectations on themselves that they should be perfect from birth till death. Nobody has ever been perfect from birth to death, because when we're born with these pollutions in the mind. And now an individual will lie. We will steal when we're children. We will hit other kids. We will do things like this because we don't have wisdom. We're new beings in this world and we don't have the wisdom of what's wise and unwise. So we make unwise choices. Just like you've heard me probably talk about the natural law of gravity, where we didn't have understanding of the natural law of gravity, so we made unwise choices and we fell down, we hit our head, we bumped our elbows, we broke our toys. But slowly but surely we gained wisdom of that natural law, and now we don't experience that anymore. We can climb ladders, ride bicycles, fly all over the world. There's other natural laws that are out there too that we're lacking wisdom of. And we lack wisdom as a child. And even as adults, we lack wisdom unless we've taken a concerted effort to learn and understand and actually investigate and cultivate the wisdom. And as we do that, that's where our mind is now awake. When you get to the point where you fully cultivated wisdom about the natural laws, your mind's fully awake at that point. And now your mind will be completely peaceful and joyful. So you don't see the Buddha talking about guilt and shame or fear unless he's talking about eliminating it and eliminating the causes and conditions that are producing it. And his entire path is helping you to be able to eliminate those discontent feelings and all the others as well. Mm-hmm. More? Mm-hmm.
One.
You just press the button. Just wait a second or two. Yeah. Once the lights come on, you just wait a second or two.
Hello. Great. Okay. I've lost my train of thought now. Yes. So really, the feelings of guilt I get, you're saying it's more about how I feel about myself. It's all about my emotion. Mm-hmm. So to eliminate guilty feelings is to recognize the feelings and to maybe just let them be rather than struggle to push them aside.
Let me show you. I'm going to back up here. This is what I teach as part of this whole program over multiple weeks and months, where the Eightfold Path is the core central teaching that you need to be able to learn to be able to eliminate all discontent feelings, not just guilt, but it's all discontent feelings. It starts with the right view. And what I do is I usually teach this based in the words of the Buddha, and I'll walk you through it. It takes me about 45 minutes just to teach you this step. And then it takes about 2.5 hours to teach the entire path. This is the core central teaching of the Buddha. So right view starts out with what's called the Four Noble Truths, helping you to understand that it's your own mind that's producing these feelings, that your mind's been conditioned a certain way. You've been conditioned to believe that you should be expected of yourself to perform here. And now when you're here, you're feeling guilty about that. But this expectation, this craving, you got to get it out of the way and just realize this is where you are. But it's just me saying that isn't going to allow you to do that. You need all these practices, all these tools to be able to help you to do that. So for example, up here, what right mindfulness is in general is it's awareness of mind, where you have awareness of what's going on in your own mind. And then what right effort is anytime there's any unwholesome qualities that are coming up in the mind, you apply the effort to eliminate those and get those out of the mind. And then you apply the effort to bring in the wholesome qualities. And the way that you cultivate these two is through one aspect of right concentration, which is the meditation. The breathing mindfulness meditation, when you're focused on the breath and the mind moves off the breath, you're training the mind to let go and bring the mind back to the breath. So that movement of the mind, that's your mindfulness, that you're aware that it's happened. And then when you let it go and bring your mind back to the breath, that's training like an internal mechanism in your mind to let go, let go, let go. So now in your day-to-day life, with your mindfulness or awareness of mind, you're noticing the guilt starting to arise. You cut it off and let it go. You don't suppress it or repress it. You actually cut it off and let it go before it even becomes a feeling. So for example, this mindfulness, what this mindfulness is it's these four foundations of mindfulness. This is the life cycle that you're going to experience of this discontentedness arising. That before your mind experiences a feeling of guilt, there's going to be bodily sensations first that you may or may not even be aware of right now. But let's just use something like anger. With anger, it's typically like tingling in the body, tightening in the chest, tightening in the throat, heat in the face, pressure in the skull, right? These are the bodily sensations. It's like an early warning system alerting you that, hey, you're about to get angry. You're about to get frustrated or agitated or annoyed. And what the Buddha teaches you is at that moment, when you notice that, apply right effort and cut that off and let it go. So you protect the mind, you preserve the mind of having to experience that feeling. Because what the mind's trying to do is it's trying to form a feeling based on some experience, right? So let me give you a simple example. Say you're sitting at a traffic light and you hear some music from somebody that's in the car next to you. And this is music that you really like. And you're like, wow, that's my jam. All right. Well, based on the sound going in your ear and having that contact, now there's this pleasant feeling that's arising. But before that, there was some bodily sensation, some tingling across the shoulders, up the back of the neck, over the head. Again, people may or may not be aware of this. There was a bodily sensation first. Then the mind experienced the feeling because it formed this feeling. Then it's going to affect the condition of the mind more long term. For a few minutes, for a few hours, the mind's going to experience this condition of the mind. And then it feeds what's called a mental object, which is a deeply rooted container in the mind. Well, on the flip side of this, you pull up to the next traffic light and somebody else has some different type of music. And you don't listen to this kind of music. You don't like this kind of music. Now you hear that in your ear. Now the mind, because of its craving, because of its longing and yearning for permanently agreeable contact through the ear, for example, now the anger starts to arise, where it's going to first be a bodily sensation, right? And the idea is to cut it off and let it go there. That's what you would like to do, because then you protect your mind. You're like, no worries. This is just impermanence, right? Sometimes I'm going to hear music that I prefer. Sometimes I'm not. And either way, this guy or girl is going to only be there for the next 2 or 3 minutes while the light's red. And then the light's going to turn red. No need for me to get frustrated or angry at this impermanent situation. It's not that person or the music that's causing the anger and frustration. It's the mind's craving for permanence, wanting permanently agreeable contact through the ears. So if you can notice it as a bodily sensation and cut it off and let it go there, you've protected the mind. You've preserved the mind. It's kind of like preventing water from ever coming into your boat, because once the water comes in, you've got a real problem to deal with at that point. So the mind is trying to form this feeling, and it's giving you an indication that that's what it's doing through the bodily sensations. And now you say, nope, I'm not going to let you do that. Right? And then if you do that enough over the course of your life, eventually there won't be any arising of that guilt or that shame, because your mind has been so well trained. So you need to get to the point where you've developed all of these factors. And here with the mental discipline, I just kind of hone in on that for you, is that if you have the meditation practice developed, where you're developing this mindfulness, awareness of mind, this internal mechanism to cut off and let go, then you've got your mindfulness and awareness of mind, which is kind of like a guard. It's kind of like a virus scanner on a computer overlooking your mind all throughout your day. And wherever you see unwholesome qualities arising, you then apply right effort to cut it off and let it go. Just like a virus scanner will look over your hard drive, and if a virus lands on your hard drive, it'll isolate it, quarantine it, clean it up, and get it off your hard drive. That's the same thing that you'd like to do with your mindfulness, is overlook the mind, guard the mind, and wherever you see unwholesome qualities arising, you cut it off and let it go and get it out of your mind before it becomes a feeling. But the thing is that in the early part of your development, you don't have that ability. You're not going to be able to see every single arising of every single discontentedness and cut it off as a bodily sensation. It is going to become a feeling sometimes. So if you missed it as a bodily sensation, you cut it off as a feeling. And then if you miss it as a feeling and it becomes to the point where it's affecting the condition of your mind for a few minutes, a few hours, you cut it off there because you know it's going to feed this mental object. So the way that this looks in day-to-day life is, just say you're sitting on the sofa, and let's just say something comes up on the TV and you're noticing guilt starting to arise, and you notice it as a bodily sensation. Cut off the TV, go for a walk, redirect the mind somewhere else. That would be the right effort. You're using your right mindfulness to be aware that the guilt is arising, and now you apply the effort to send the mind in a different direction and not allow it to form that conditioned feeling. And over time, that'll become less and less and less and less and less until eventually whatever that craving is that's producing the guilt will be completely eliminated. So this is kind of in general, right? But then there's things that you can do to specifically go in and look at what is the craving that's producing that guilt, because there's specific cravings from your childhood, it sounds like, from Catholicism, that this was kind of, your mind was conditioned to think this is where you should be, and as long as you're less than that, you're maybe less of a person, and they might teach you this way in some places, and you would like to be able to see, no, that's not an expectation that I'm going to adopt in my mind. I'm a work in progress, and I'm going to do things unwise sometimes, and that's normal. There's going to be missteps. But as I do that, each time I'm going to cultivate wisdom and learn so that I can become a better and better person, because you're a work in progress. So in this respect, there's no such thing as failure, because every time you have a misstep, you just cultivate wisdom, and then next time you make better decisions. But if you can go in and actively cultivate the wisdom, that's going to be more helpful for you, because you'll get ahead of the curve. And that's why you're reading books. If you're reading any of the books that we have, if you're coming to classes and you're learning in some of our in-depth classes where you're, gradually learning the teachings, if you're consulting with a teacher and getting personal guidance, you can actually get ahead of the curve where you're actually actively cultivating wisdom to make wise decisions, where you're not just waiting to make a misstep and then cultivate wisdom, because you're going to produce a certain amount of unwholesome results there by allowing your mind to make those unwise decisions. But if you can be in the process of learning and growing and developing, this is going to help you get ahead of the curve. That's where I talk about the teachings of the Buddha like a self-help program, where you're doing this inner work, this inner growth, this inner development. And that's ultimately what you would like to be doing, because then you'll get way ahead of the curve, because you'll have wisdom that you didn't once have. And now you'll be able to make wiser and wiser decisions. But even still, you'll make unwise decisions in certain points on the path to enlightenment, but you just learn and grow and develop from that, where you don't beat yourself up about it. Mm-hmm.
That's great. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm. You're welcome. There's a gentleman behind you that has a question. If you'd like to go too, you can go. Yeah. Up to you. Yeah. It's going to take a moment to get the mic.
Hello? Hi.
Yes.
Hi there.
Hello.
I personally struggle with self-loathing, and particularly I feel like I have a great understanding of where it comes from and when it does come up, and the kind of displacement I'll have of blaming others or other people, groups of people or entities or whatever. And I feel like I have a really good understanding of recognizing it, but I'm at the point where I really struggle with taking action against it, or really understanding of what to actually do about it once I do recognize it. Mm-hmm. And I was wondering if there's any advice or concepts I should explore to really help with that aspect of it.
Yeah, it's the same thing like I was just explaining to this gentleman. Each one of these things, whether it's guilt or shame or self-loathing or any of these unwholesome qualities that are in the mind, it's all the same recipe. That's the beauty about the teachings of the Buddha. There isn't one meditation for stress and one for anxiety and one for sadness and one for, something else. It's all the same underlying cause that is producing any of these unwholesome qualities. It's these pollutions that the Buddha discovered. And when you uproot those and get them out of the mind, that's what's going to produce the peace and the joy. So you would need to learn this entire path and implement that into your day-to-day life. One of the ways you might think about this is if you had a sound system and there were 8 individual dials and you would tweak these dials and get a better quality sound out of the speakers. The Eightfold Path is the same way for your mind, that you tweak each one of these little dials and you get a better quality performing mind. So you're going to need to learn this as a starting point. And there's multiple ways you can do that. We have books, audiobooks, videos, podcasts. We have classes, courses, retreats, personal guidance. It's all available at no cost. You can get access to all of this. So you can get access to our books online by going to our website, buddhadailywisdom.com. You can download it from there. You can get a printed version here if you like by reimbursing us for the printing cost. You can go print it yourself if you like. You can get it on Amazon. What I would suggest for each person who's ready to be able to experience this better way of life where your mind can be completely peaceful and joyful is start with learning this. You're going to need this because when that self-loathing is starting to arise, if you can notice it with your mindfulness, you can cut it off and let it go. And slowly but surely, you can eradicate it out of the mind. But you need to know this whole path. Even though I just jumped in and kind of taught this gentleman a little bit about what's going on here, it's actually a lot deeper of what's going on here. And then also you need these other factors too to be able to really practice this really well. So I would encourage you to learn and practice this as well.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Can you hear me? Yes. Yes, my question is the loving kindness meditation, in which I truly believe, and that we all know that what Buddha said thousands of years ago, now like neuroscience and science is confirming. So this is one powerful meditation. My question is and you already answered to that. I just want to know if there are more tools for me to help me connect the thought to the feeling, to the feeling of love and kind, because sometimes I find myself repeating this thought, but for the brain to really rewire and change, it needs to be connected to the feeling. So how can I connect to the feeling of love and believing what I'm saying? And you already said naming, and it really works. I think it will help me, because if I think of someone, it will create an emotion in me to connect that thought with the feeling. But other than that, what can help me in the meditation to connect with the emotion? Outside the meditation, I can find tools, external tools, but inside, what can I do to connect with the feeling? Thank you.
So first, it's important to understand that love and kindness aren't feelings. Feelings arise, they change, and they fade away. And the reason why they're arising, changing, and fading away is they're based on some condition, right? So if you see it's sunny outside, you get happy, and then that arises, it changes, and it fades away. When the sun goes away, because it's impermanent, the feeling of happiness will go away. Or sadness, same thing. It arises, changes, fades away. Those are emotions. Those are feelings. What you're looking to do is cultivate the mental qualities of love and kindness, where it's a permanent mental state, that the mind is permeating and filled with that unconditionally, that there doesn't need to be any condition met in order for that love and kindness to be in the mind. So oftentimes, were you here on Sunday? Okay, so we were talking about true love and, love without attachment. That's sometimes we might call what people are thinking about love. We might call that conditional love, even though it's not actually love. It's based on some condition, I will say I love you. And then as long as you do things my way, then I will act like I love you. But when you stop doing things my way, I don't love you anymore. That's not actually love. That's where people are saying that they're falling in love with people and they're falling out of love with people. That's because they're experiencing craving, desire, attachment, wants, and expectations. And as long as this person does things my way, the person will say, I love them. And that's the feeling that they're experiencing, which is the pleasant feelings of happiness, excitement, elation. And then when they have broken up, they experience painful feelings of sadness, and they think it's coming from their love, but it's actually coming from their craving for permanence in this relationship. So what you're looking to get to is to the point where there's unconditional love in your mind, where you can love all beings unconditionally, where they don't need to meet any condition for you to have this love. And the way that you do this is, yes, through the meditation. There's some other things that you can be doing, but it's not connecting it to the feeling or the emotion. It's just helping to permeate the love and the kindness in the mind more. So then it's unconditional. So in addition to the phrases that we do, may I be peaceful, safe, well, and free of discontentedness. May mom and dad be peaceful, safe, and free of discontentedness. You can do visualization in the mind, where you visualize mom or dad or whoever it is that you're inserting into your meditation. And one of the ways that I used to do this is, like, I would envision mom was sitting right in front of me, cross-legged, out with my eyes closed, and I would envision that when I was saying, may mom be peaceful, that there was like this molasses that was coming from her head and just encompassing her body and kind of fully engrossing her body of peacefulness. And then may mom be safe. Same thing, like this molasses of safety just kind of like permeating and kind of oozing over her body. And the Buddha talks about this to a certain degree, where he talks about how your mind should be all-encompassing, where you should have this all-encompassing love and kindness for other beings without any conditions needing to be met. And if you bring in this visualization, this can help you during the meditation to permeate it up in the mind, because you're rewiring the mind to be more loving and kind. And then, of course, going out in the world and being more loving and kind, and making sure that there doesn't need to be any condition met for you to be loving and kind. That's where I was saying, like, sometimes we're taught, like, I'm not going to respect you until you respect me. Well, I'm not going to respect you until you respect me. You're not interested in doing that with your love and your kindness. Somebody cut you off in traffic. Hey, enjoy the lane, brother. It's yours, right? Somebody walks by you and bumps you as you're walking down the street. Oh, I'm so sorry, sir. So sorry, ma'am. I apologize, right? No anger, no frustration towards that person, just love and kindness towards that person. So in each situation, our mind in the past, when we experience these feelings arising of anger, hatred, and hostility and all this other, we think it's the other person that's causing it. So we go down this path of anger and hostility. And more, you're turning away from that path and going down this path of love and kindness and getting out your machete and breaking through the bushes and the stickers. And now the more and more that your mind turns down this path, it won't go down this path anymore. So the meditation is important, yes, and you can use that visualization to help you. But in your day-to-day life, when you're having certain experiences where you notice the anger arising, bring in the loving kindness. Use that right effort to bring in the loving kindness. I gave you that example, like at the ticket counter of the airline, and they tell you, like, hey, your flight's delayed. You notice that coming? Oh, thank you for letting me know, sir. Thank you for letting me know, ma'am. Is there a restaurant around? I'd like to sit down and have some food while I'm waiting for my airplane, right? You just kind of like talk nice and friendly, where maybe in the past we might have been bitter and harsh and hostile to this person or some other situation, because the situations where you get angry. And in those situations, you would like to more and more eliminate that and bring in your loving kindness towards those people, right? That's the practice. That's the work that the mind needs to do. Yeah. The meditations are really just helping you to be able to do that work in your day-to-day life. One of the ways I think about the meditations is like exercising the mind, taking the mind to the gym and exercising it, just like you would exercise the body. And then in your day-to-day life, your friend's like, hey, can you help me move my sofa? You're like, sure. You like know you have the strength to be able to do that. So the same thing is true with these meditations, is you're exercising the mind and building up these qualities so that in your day-to-day life you can now practice them. There's a lot of people in the world that are out there meditating 6, 8, 10, 12 hours a day in some of these retreats and things like this. Well, wonderful for them that they're choosing to do that, but you actually don't need to do that in order to actually get to enlightenment. Just like going to the gym, you can go in for 30 minutes, 45 minutes, knock out your workout and be outside enjoying life. Or you can go into the gym, watch TV, send some text messages, talk to your friends, kind of gawk at the other people, comparing their weights to your weight and how much you're doing versus them. You could spend 6-8 hours in the gym, but your workout isn't any better than if you got in there for 30, 45 minutes, did your workout and got out. So this meditations that you're doing, you would like to build up those qualities and understand that you don't need to be meditating these exorbitant amounts of time, because as a household practitioner, you actually don't have that ability to meditate for 6, 8, 10 hours a day, 12 hours a day. You'd like to create this consistent practice that you can be doing consistently all throughout your days and weeks and months, that you can be meditating 30 minutes, 2 or 3 times a day, building up the qualities of your mind, helping to exercise the mind. But then the real practice is day by day, moment by moment. When you're out there in the world, someone cuts you off, can you maintain your composure and your stableness of mind? When you go to the restaurant and the body is super hungry and it needs food, and they're taking a long time in the kitchen to bring your food, can you really maintain your calmness and composure in the situation? Right? That's the real practice. So these meditations, very important. Hone in on those and figure out how to do them better and better. But then be sure you're paying attention to your day-to-day work and the practice that you're doing on a day-to-day basis, because that's where the real transformation is truly occurring. These meditations are just building up the qualities that allow you to go out into the world, and then that's where the real transformation is occurring. Mm-hmm. Any other questions? No other questions? Okay, let me see if we have anything online here. I don't see anything online. Okay. Well, what I'm going to do then is just end class by thanking all of you guys for joining. Thank you for your interest to learn and grow and develop. If you guys would like to learn more, there's plenty of opportunities to do that. We have many events here. On Fridays at 6 p.m., we have a social event where if you guys would like to come here and play games, this Friday we're having a game night where people will sometimes bring snacks and drinks, and we have a little bit of music playing. It's kind of like a little party where you get to hang out with people and get to know people. We have plenty of interesting board games to play. If you guys would like to come and hang out on Friday at 6 p.m., that's a great time to do that. On Saturday and Sunday at 9 a.m. in the morning, we have classes here. Saturday is our Pali Canon and English study group. Sunday is our group learning program. This Sunday, I'm going to be teaching chapter 16, which is titled Dissolving the Ego. Ego serves no purpose. The ego is where the mind thinks that you're so great and everybody else is below you. The arrogance, the pride, the measuring and comparing, putting yourself above people or putting yourself below people. And you actually need to eliminate this and dissolve this in order to be able to get to enlightenment. So I'm going to explain to you what the ego is in detail. I'm going to explain to you the difficulties and struggles you experience because of it. And then I'm going to teach you how to eliminate it as part of Sunday's class. And it's going to be Sunday here at 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. And then at Sunday at 6:30 p.m., we have meditation in the main hall over there. It kind of syncs up with the Sunday night walking market. So if you'd like to come to the Sunday meditation, there's that option for you as well. And then next week, I'm going to be teaching a course called Harmony in Relationships. It's Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m., where I'm going to be teaching you how to build harmony in your relationships. We have multiple classes within that course. And one of the things I'm going to be doing is teaching the Eightfold Path on Monday, inside and out, backwards and forwards, so that you can really understand it as part of that class. Because in order to get to harmonious relationships, you need to learn the Eightfold Path. So whatever you guys choose to do today, have a very wonderful and lovely rest of your day. And perhaps we'll see you next time. Sawadee khap. Sawadee khap. Thank you again for watching. Enjoy your meditation. Look forward to seeing you online and answering any questions that you might have. Thank you so much.